Greetings! My name is Shakira Kusumanarda, and in this video, me and my fellow peers from Group 5, Anissa Ramadina Putri, Norman Farid Afan, Ahmad Fatih Persirah Nurdin, and Jessica Putri Karmianti will present about Confucianism and its social, cultural, and political dynamics in Indonesia. Before we begin, I'd like to first start the presentation by introducing the topic of Confucianism. The term Confucianism is a philosophy and belief that is also one of the 6 official religions that is recognized in Indonesia. Let's dive deeper into the origin of Confucianism in the next slide.
Let's start from wisdom from the East. Confucianism was founded in China by Master Kong as a philosopher who was given the name Confucius. Confucius was a philosopher and teacher who lived from 551 to 479 BCE. He lived in the eastern part of China in a regional state called Lu. During the Han Dynasty, Confucius schools began to teach Confucian ethics. For several centuries, Confucianism exists alongside Buddhism and Taoism as one of the most important Chinese religions. At the same time, Han Wudi, as the emperor of China, made the state of ideology and Confucianism the dominant ideology in China for the next 2,000 years, protecting China's feudalism. Move to the Tang Dynasty and Qing Dynasty. In the Tang Dynasty, people were taught to have a good understanding of Confucianism from the book that is obvious to their eyes and minds. The Song Dynasty was a period when the culture of the country drastically grew. The Confucians also created a social elite known as a gentry scholar class in this dynasty.
Talking about the early Confucianism followers to Indonesia, let's begin in the 3rd century of the Common Era, where Confucianism was brought to Indonesia from China, primarily through Chinese merchants and immigrants. As a religion, Indonesian Confucianism is actually different from Confucianism in modern China, where it is considered a philosophy of national significance, but is not one of China's 5 official religions. Confucianism first arrived in Indonesia during the Dutch colonial era. In Indonesia, Confucianism was widely referred to as Konghucu. The effects of Europe and China and links with other theological traditions influenced Indonesian ceremonial customs and understanding of Confucianism during the Dutch colonial era in the early 20th century, and it was also not recognized as an organized religion. Then, continuing to Confucianism during the colonization, the Dutch East Indies actually witnessed the emergence and growth of the Confucian and Chinese religions between 1897 and 1905. Although Confucianism is an ancient concept, its understanding as a formal religion is debatable. This debate is said to be influenced by the effect of European knowledge on China and Confucianism. It took so long for Chinese Indonesians to define Confucianism for themselves because of the social and political circumstances in which the Dutch colonial authorities pressured the Chinese. So, how did Confucianism as a religion spread in Indonesia? It started when the Chinese Association, THHK, or Tianghua Hui Quan, was created in Batavia in 1900 as the first pan-Chinese organization in Indonesia, with Confucianism as its foundation. However, the THHK evolved into an educational institution and strayed from its initial goal of promoting Confucianism. This caused the formation of another Confucian association, Konghuahi. The first Konghuahi was founded in Solo in 1918 and distributed to neighboring places afterwards. In 1923, different Confucian groups met in Yogyakarta for a conference, which resulted in the formation of the General Organization of Konghuahi. The General's organization headquarters were located in Bandung. Thus, this was regarded as the formal beginning of the Confucian religion in Indonesia.
There are 3 main points in Confucianism in the post-independence era of Indonesia. 1. That is, even after gaining independence, Confucianism isn't widely as accepted as other religions. There is also a belief that Confucianism could only be practiced by Chinese people. It leads to popular belief that people of other ethnicities cannot access it. 3. The Supreme Council that was established in 1955 shows that Confucianism started to expand 10 years after Indonesian independence. Divided nationalism. There are 4 points that I would like to tell. Citizens who identified themselves as Confucians were marked as Buddhists on their identity papers. There were numerous boycotts of China-related goods and services, including Confucianism during the Suharto era. Their temple had to be disguised as Buddhist through adjustments, including renaming the temple called Kelenteng to Wihara. They also had to rename their organization from Gapaski to Matakin in 1967, led by Tang Sihu. The loyalty in question. The believers of Confucianism, where the majority were Chinese Indonesian, had to adapt to Indonesian socio-political situation, even after post-independence due to race barriers.
Confucius' basic teaching accentuates the moral reformation of society. Rituals in Confucianism were designed to bring about a respectful attitude and create a sense of community within a group. Confucianism, teaching principal concept consisting of rituals or li, this concept teaches us to be a better person and how to act as well as maintain the attitude of humanity. Other than that is humaneness or ren. Ren teaches humans to love each other and uphold the attitude of sympathy and empathy. Another concept is filial piety or xiao, like the basic manners that are usually taught in the most families, especially Asian families. Xiao teaches respect to the elderly parent, ancestors, and teachers. The last one is righteousness or yi. This teaching have become the guidelines for improving ethical moral values. These are almost identical with the ways of life of the sage of antiquity known as saints. Besides that, there are also another spiritual figures, namely Wenxi as a religious teacher, Quanxi as a priest, and Zheng Lo as an elder.
My name is Fatih. Next up, let's talk about Confucianism and social aspects. The Confucian philosophy has had a significant social impact on China. Confucius, a philosopher on par with Aristotle and Plato, developed a moral code that has had a significant impact on how the Chinese view the world. Asia was also significantly impacted. Confucius, who lived in China in the 6th century BCE, is credited with developing Confucianism, a philosophy and body of teachings. The concept emphasizes morality on both a personal and social level, as well as the propriety of interpersonal interactions, justice, and personal property. It is said that Confucianism held that the ultimate aim was to establish a harmonious society, in contrast to other belief systems like Taoism or Buddhism, which placed a strong emphasis on spiritual freedom or nirvana. Some contend that it had an impact elsewhere in addition to East Asia. The Confucian philosophy has had a significant social impact on China. One of the main reasons Confucian ethics had a significant impact on traditional Chinese society is that it influenced religions, governments, and education. Many aspects of the Confucian idea can still be found in this Chinese people's way of life today. The most obvious is its influence on the family unit significantly impacted. Next up, let's talk about Confucianism and its cultural aspects. Confucianism believes in ancestor worship and human-centered virtues for living a peaceful life. The golden rule of Confucianism is do not do unto others what you would not want others to do unto you. Ancestor worship has been a vital part of Chinese life since prehistoric times. The earliest known Chinese writings document the practice of ancestor worship among the rulers of the Shang dynasty, 1570 to 1045 BCE. During the waning centuries of the Zhou dynasty, 1045 to 221 BCE, Confucians made ancestor worship the focal point of their moral and spiritual message.
Confucianism and economic aspect. In the economic aspect, Confucianism applied macroeconomic policies aiming to create a stable economic environment that supports promoting strong and long-term economic growth. Their main four keys of production are natural, labor, capital, resources, and entrepreneurship. Natural resources. Their aim is putting significant emphasis on productivity while ensuring that all natural resources are used as efficiently as possible. Productivity growth must occur before compensation increases. emphasize the need for trained labor, automation, positive employee-employer relations, good management, and ongoing productivity growth. It will boost the economy's competitiveness by ensuring that all natural resources are used effectively in the long term. Labor resources. By dedicating more money for this goal, place a greater emphasis on education and training. To steadily raise the population's literacy rate, additional schools and higher education institutions are being established. Adopt mandatory education policies for all residents up to primary or secondary levels. Individual and corporate taxpayers should be given tax relief in the form of allowance or tax rebates for the cost of their education or training, as doing so will eventually create a pool of knowledgeable workers who can support the needs, expansion, and development of the nation's economy. For capital resources, what they're doing is by adopting a system for mandatory savings, like the Central Provident Fund, CPF, used by the Singaporean government, which requires all employees to set aside 20% of their wages as contributions for retirement. Enhance public trust in the financial system and its institutions. Governments must carefully and appropriately regulate the financial sector. Governments must spend prudently by consistently generating budget surpluses in order to enhance government reserves. Governments must also continue to fight corruption and emphasize the advantages of having a clean government. Governmental morality and integrity cannot be compromised, and government should continuously work to entice foreign direct investment and strengthen the competitiveness of exports. Long-term accumulation of foreign reserves will lead to a rise in the amount of money available for investment at relatively lower interest rates cost, which will assist economic development and growth. For entrepreneurship, their goal is to encourage the spirit of entrepreneurship by offering rewards such as tax holidays or refunds and assistance for the establishment of new businesses. Reduce the amount of paperwork and bureaucracy needed to launch new businesses. Singapore and Hong Kong are two of the best cities in the world for conducting business, according to several international organizations. More technical and financial assistance should be given to companies looking to expand domestically or internationally, particularly small and medium-sized businesses. Increase innovation and creativity in the nation by putting an emphasis on research and development, R&D, by enacting laws to protect new ideas. This will boost the economy's competitiveness by enabling the development and manufacturing of high-quality goods and services. Confucianism and political aspect. Confucianism believes that politics can only succeed if the people in power are virtuous. Confucian political theory is thus a form of perfectionism that holds that the state should advance the good life. As such, it is in direct opposition to the modern liberal viewpoint that holds that the state and its representative should not have an opinion on what constitutes a good life. Regarding their political vision, which consists of Shujing, that portrays kinship in Confucian society as the moral basis for their government. The three rulers they look up to are Yao, Shun, and Yu, that also apply virtuosity in their rule. Their wisdom and diligence enable them to create a political culture based on responsibility and trust. Their ideal lifestyle encouraged people to enter the covenant with them, aiming for social harmony and banning punishment or coercion. Even though three dynasties, Xia, Shang, and Zhou, Confucianism has always been able to maintain their political order through rituals. They succeeded in creating a united Confucian political ideology, emphasizing conflict resolution through mediation, rather than through the application of abstract laws to create right and wrong in order to achieve societal peace. Several institutions expressed the idea that the state was the moral protector of the populace. Confucianism's conception of the politics of virtue naturally favors the rule of the wise over the rule of the many, emphasizes the need for people to encourage virtues over the enjoyment of rights and liberties, and sees people's compassion for the needy based on the virtues or duties rather than on demands for social equality or justice. Here is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.